Good afternoon and welcome to PASA's listening session, What Can Pennsylvania's Farm Service Agency Do for You? I'm Sarah Nicholas, Policy Specialist with PASA. Welcome on this beautiful Friday. Thanks so much for joining us. PASA Sustainable Agriculture is a Pennsylvania-based association of farmers and changemakers cultivating environmentally sound, economically viable, and community-focused farms and food systems. Today, we have a great panel for you. We have the recently named Director of the Pennsylvania Farm Service Agency, Heidi Secord. We will have an introduction from our own Executive Director at PASA, Hannah Smith-Brugbaker. And Heidi has brought a crack staff of her specialists at Farm Service Agency to help answer your questions. So I hope you've brought a lot of questions with you today. The key to getting questions to Heidi and her team is to put them in the Q&A feature. We will get to as many as we can. So the other way that you can join us and interact is through the chat. And that's where you can put your thoughts, your comments. If you have great links that are good illustrations for the whole group, we'd love to see them. And we will be putting some of our own links that are helpful information for you. So take a look at that every now and then. I'm also making a pitch because we are in the season of updating and reauthorizing the federal farm bill, that if there are changes, issues, or comments you would like to share on that topic with our USDA guests, you are welcome to, and you are always welcome to reach out to us at the policy@pasafarming.org website. So with this, we're going to get started with a welcoming talk from Hannah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining PASA today to hear from a longtime colleague and friend, farmer and former PASA board member, Heidi Secord. Heidi is now the State Director for Pennsylvania's Farm Service Agency, and I'm so excited that she's in this role and that we have an opportunity today to hear from her, giving FSA the floor to talk directly to our PASA community. While we in the sustainable agriculture community don't always make the direct link, there is a lot of significance in terms of Farm Service Agency's ability to benefit our farms. When my own farm business transitioned from my in-laws to my partner and I, we were able to secure a microloan that helped this challenging transition be possible, and the application process was, well, way less daunting than I imagined. During COVID, our farm was able to call our local FSA agent and easily submit for CFAP funds. The COVID relief funding really helped us weather uncertain times. FSA can help point you to and then help you apply for many federal and state funding opportunities. We also know that this kind of FSA relationship hasn't always been accessible to all farmers, especially those traditionally underserved. Well, actually, that's the definition of underserved, right? Not being able to get at those same resources that are available to others. And that's where Heidi and FSA come in. Farm Service Agency has the potential to connect and build relationships with a whole new set of farmers like you. And that's in part because FSA offers a more expansive array of services now that more folks can access. And in part because of USDA's commitment to equity in the region through administrators like Heidi. You'll also hear from Heidi about opportunities for you to have an impact, for example, through county FSA committees. It's the people at the table making the decisions, so I hope you'll join the table or encourage someone that you know to join. I'm glad that you're with us today and that you'll get to understand what FSA can do for your farm and perhaps for your neighbor's farm too. Heidi, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Hannah. That was terrific. I want to introduce Heidi as well in a slightly different way. I hope you'll indulge me on this. Heidi is a pioneer in so many different ways, and we're excited to see her make her mark on this very important agency. FSA isn't always as visible as the sister agency, NRCS, because they don't have as many technicians out in the field, but they're vitally important for so many services that Heidi and her staff will walk us through today, and I hope you'll ask lots of questions. Without further ado, Heidi.
Great, thanks so much, Sarah and Hannah. Wonderful introductions from women that are huge mentors to me, both watching Sarah in her career and Hannah as well. I just wanted to give a brief background. I'm not sure how many of you know my background. I came to Pennsylvania via West Africa. I served in the United States Peace Corps. I worked and have been working for about 26 years in agriculture. I started right when I got back from Peace Corps. I started my own farm about 15 years ago. And I, with my husband, we run and manage the Josie Porter Farm in Northeast Pennsylvania in the Poconos. We have a 100-member CSA and a food hub where we bring in other local food from other local growers. And of course, you may know also that my former role as the president of Pennsylvania Farmers Union, with a huge interest in policy and advocacy and really wanting to make changes for farmers here in Pennsylvania and throughout the world. You know, I consider myself a short-term realist and a long-term optimist. That's a huge part of my values. I'm excited to be here and representing the administration. I am a political appointee, and so I serve at the pleasure and serve the administration of Secretary Vilsack. Very, very big push, and as I'm so excited, I kind of feel like it's Vilsack, you know, 2.0. You know, he gets another shot here, and I think he's coming in with the right mission, the right values, the right message, and we as SEDs are here to make sure that that message gets brought through from the grassroots level, from our county offices. And we have 38 now with Philadelphia county offices that we serve from here in Pennsylvania, and which serve all of our counties. Very grassroots based, as Hannah pointed out, and I was going to highlight with our county committees. A lot of that information gets brought up. County committees are made up of local farmers to make sure that those county offices are being run in an effective way, working with their county executive directors. And that information and that comes right up to our state office through our state committee, who we've just appointed, and also then through us as SEDs up into the national area. So very grassroots based. We focus around circular economies, comprehensive approach. If any of you were able to check out Secretary Vilsack's comments a couple of weeks ago around transforming food systems, it's an excellent video. Please go check it out. We're focused throughout all of the US around urban specialty growers, underserved farmers. I think Sarah really, you know, hit it there. It's part of our strategic plan and our strategic goals. We're looking at, in particular, it's important to the PASA community, you know, combating climate change to support America's working lands, natural resources, and communities. Ensuring America's agricultural system is equitable, resilient, and prosperous, and fostering an equitable and competitive marketplace for all agricultural producers. I mean, these are things both as a PASA member, a former PASA board member, and now as SED, I'm dedicated to making sure that those things are happening in our state through our organization. So anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here and be in my new role and see how we and PASA can work together to support farmers throughout Pennsylvania. I did bring a great team along with me to go over and talk about what we as FSA can do to help you in the field. And I'd really like to introduce our next person who's going to present, Melissa Wiebrick. She's my outreach coordinator, and the great team of people that we have with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I am going to share my screen and share a PowerPoint that overviews FSA. And if someone can just verify that I am actually connected to do that. Is that a head shake?
Yep, there
Sarah?
you are.
Okay, so my name is Melissa Wiebrick. I'm the outreach coordinator for Pennsylvania's Farm Service Agency. So I just wanted to hit the ground running with an inch deep and a mile wide overview of some of the things that I think people on this audience, on this call, producers would like to know about FSA, and maybe it'll just be a refresher. So I start by saying FSA is short for Farm Service Agency. We speak in acronyms, and that's the first one I'll tell you about. The United States Department of Ag, USDA. The Farm Service Agency is charged with implementing agricultural policy, administering credit and loan programs, and managing conservation, disaster, and price support programs. I add 2 websites that will further your ability to find details on all of these things that we're going to be talking about, and you can check those out at your convenience. I am trying to move slides. There we are. If I can have you think of the Farm Service Agency in 2 sections, so to say, that will help us understand. The Farm Loan Program is one side of our agency, and Farm Programs is the other side. And when I say that, that's the 2 main portfolios that the Farm Service Agency, that the programs present. And farm loan programs offer things like direct and guaranteed farm ownership and farm operating loans to farmers who cannot obtain commercial credit from a bank or other lender. They can be used for things like purchasing land, livestock, equipment, feed, seed, etc. And we have a specialist on the panel that can dive into some of those different types of loans that are listed here. Like I said, they range from farm ownership and operating to things like microloans and youth loans. A quick screen of the interest rates just to share. That's for June of this year. Things to think about when you're applying for a farm loan or to have ready or just to know about are that you may want to be thinking about your business structure, your type of operation, your education and farm experience and training, having a business plan in mind, the amount of money that you're looking for in the loan and the purpose of it, and any type of production or financial data that you might have. That will just help you be in the right mindset and be prepared for those topics of interest when you're ready. If we switch gears to the farm program section of our agency, this is the programs that are to help ag producers manage market risks, recover from disasters and conservation, protect America's natural resources. One of the programs to highlight would be our Farm Storage Facility Loan, the acronym FSFL. And these types of loans are different from the farm loan side of our agency because they're available to any producer of an eligible commodity, even if you can obtain credit elsewhere. I have a few slides with a lot of information. The takeaway that we can pull from this are that maximum loan amounts for storage facilities are $500,000, and the maximum for storage and handling trucks is $100,000. And there are different types of commodities and facilities that would be eligible for this, and it's important to highlight because they can be new or used and portable or affixed pieces of equipment. To keep this moving, another program of interest, NAP, which we all chuckle about because everybody wants to buy a NAP, right? Non-insured crop disaster assistance program is a program that provides financial assistance to producers of non-insurable crops. And it would be for when low yields or crop losses prevented plantings occur due to natural disasters. So there's a lot of information on the screen about service fees and different types of requirements and eligible causes of loss. There's also some information because we have a buy-up option for this program that provides some flexibility in coverage. And then it is notable that beginning, limited resource, and underserved farmers are eligible for a waiver of the service fee and a 50% premium reduction. Bumping to another program called the Marketing Assistance Loan Program, MALs. They are loans that are for producers to store their commodities at harvest time or around harvest time when prices are typically lower, and they use that commodity as collateral for a loan, and it provides cash flow until the loan is later paid back or the commodity is sold at a more favorable price. Conservation Reserve Program is something to highlight, CRP. Conservation Reserve Program has different types of programs, and the land is conserved. It's in exchange for a yearly rental rate. Farmers enroll environmentally sensitive land and from ag production and improve environmental health and water quality. And there are contracts, different types of lengths from 10 to 15 years. This is an overview of some of those types of programs in the conservation realm. One to note is that Pennsylvania has 3 CREP agreements. That stands for Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. And that is prioritizing watershed specific goals for the Chesapeake Bay watershed, the Ohio River Basin, and the Delaware River Basin. If we could highlight organics, we have a few programs that help to reimburse producers for certification costs. Organic Certification Cost Share Program, OCCSP, is some reimbursement for certain scopes like crops, livestock, wild crops, and handling. And then there is OTECP, which stands for Organic and Transitional Education and Certification Program. And that covers costs for certification for producers and handlers. There are things like when you're doing transition to organic, registration fees for educational events, soil testing. So that's just something to have a pulse on. I quickly move then to some other pieces of the Farm Service Agency that aren't necessarily a program, but they're part of how the operation works and how you get involved. And crop reporting is something that is specific to a crop, and it has annual reporting deadlines depending on the crop that you would be reporting. And the reason this is important is because it allows the farm to have a history, and those historical purposes can have a lot of benefits, whether it be for future programs or whether it be for determining eligibility for different programs that would come out. And it also helps to determine highly erodible land conservation and wetland conservation compliance. So we always say crop reporting is like the who, what, where, when, and why that's happening out in the soil. It is important that folks understand that FSA is the recording or the administrative arm for getting started with a lot of agencies, the main one being connecting with our sister agency, NRCS. So to utilize our FSA programs and NRCS programs, and just to be able to navigate some of the resources that are offered, where to start is registering your farm with FSA. And registering your farm with FSA looks like different terms like registering your farm, receiving a farm number, getting in the system. And what happens is the producer will work with the county office staff and provide proof of identity, something like who they are or how they operate. And those two things are the start to establishing your records, and then also having some type of documentation, whether it be a deed because you own the farm or land, or some type of a lease, so that you can be attached to the area that you are farming. So that is the key to getting a farm number and getting established in the system so that you can navigate forward. If you apply for programs and different types of options and resources, there are more pieces of paperwork for eligibility, but that will be handled when you need it. Just to retouch on the county committees, it's so important. FSA is run by farmers, and that voice is so unique in the government system that I like to make sure that folks know that FSA has that voice from the people on boots on the ground, so to say. And FSA relies on this elected advisory board of farmers and local members of the community that are eligible to help supervise the local office, to help conduct outreach to producers, to make critical decisions about the program, and to help make their voices heard so that policy can reflect what is needed. I want to share that county committee elections are open. Right now it's the nomination period, and there's a website for more information. Finding your local county office, if you can navigate to farmers.gov and scroll down to Service Center Locator. That will allow you to contact whatever is your local service center. And you can see there's a map of Pennsylvania there. Some county offices may be serviced under a different office, but that's how you can navigate and reach out and get started with FSA and navigate where you need to find your service center. Another great resource to just keep a pulse on things is to sign up for our newsletters. That is done by going to www.fsa.usda.gov/subscribe. And there are different levels of information that you can receive from your county, your state, and then of course higher up on topics and information that interests you. So I will close out the presentation, and what I will do is show the names of the panelists and the experts. I will tell you a little bit about myself, and I will mention that Becca Satoris is standing in, she's the farm program chief. Tristan Corliss was to be with us and wasn't able to, so I just wanted to mention that, and we will all introduce ourselves. I will quickly tell you that who I am so that you can understand why I'm here. My name, again, is Melissa Wiebrecht. I have been with the agency for 15 years. My love of agriculture started when I was 9 years old and had a 4-H project, a lamb, and the name of the lamb was Winston, and I'll never forget him. So my parents would take us to a local farm because we lived in town. So having that access to ag and the ability to understand and have that experience is where everything started for me. I married a local dairy farmer. The farm was, the dairy was sold when the worker went to college. And shortly after, the family farm was actually no longer a family farm and sold. We now live in Blair County. My husband is an ag teacher at the local high school and the FFA chapter leader. So we are heavily involved in the youth of ag. We have 2 young girls. They're involved in 4-H. We actually live in town, so we navigate that oddity of making sure that the neighbors understand what we're doing here on our tiny plot of land. We have 6 show goats. We have an unknown amount of chickens because sometimes they come and go. So we sell eggs and goats. We have a few ducks. The duck eggs are very popular around here. And then more than anything, all the domestic animals like the cats and dogs and 11 bunny rabbits. So I wanted you to know I worked at the Farm Service Agency from a program technician level, a county office manager, and now at the state office. And I'm really passionate about making sure that we have relatable, safe, I like to say approachable spin to who we are. Heidi is the lead on that, and we are all really excited, and the whole group of us is interested in making those relationships so that these resources are available to all aspects of ag. So without further ado, I will zip it, and I am going to let Keith Beatty go ahead and introduce himself and tell everyone about himself. Keith? Hey Keith, you're on mute.
Let's try that. Okay. My name's Keith Beatty. I am the Agricultural Program Specialist for farm storage facility loans, for marketing loans, also the environmental coordinator for the state. And I'm also in charge of price support program called the ARC PLC program, and whatever other duties is necessary. I've been with the agency for 20 years. I started out in Chester County as a program technician. I worked there for 3 years. I transferred to Lancaster County as a program technician. I was there for 13 years, and I am 4 years as a program specialist in the state office in Harrisburg. My background, I was in FFA when I was in high school, and I took my ag classes there. I also worked on farms during the summer. And I also, my father-in-law has a small farm, has about a 70-acre farm. And I do help him with the plowing and the hay and whatever else he needs help with. He did have a dairy. He got rid of his cows in 2008. So I don't need to help him with the milkings anymore. I am very passionate about agriculture. It is something that we all need, and it is very important to me and to my family. So, so that's all that I have to say, Melissa. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Keith. If we can, Johanna, if you want to go ahead and take the stage, we'd love to hear from you. Johanna Davis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Johanna Davis. I am the agricultural program specialist responsible for conservation programs here for the Pennsylvania State Office. I started with the agency 11.5 years ago as a program technician in the Huntingdon-Blair County office. And I have been in this role with the state office for conservation programs for just over a year. Outside of work, I live and work on a registered Angus cow-calf and crop farm that has been in my family's, or my husband's family, for at least 4 generations. We were just trying to figure out whether we think the farm down the road has been for 5 generations, and the one I'm currently living on has been in the family for 4 generations. It had started out as a dairy farm. The dairy cows were sold in the late 90s, and it has been, like I said, a registered cow-calf Angus operation ever since. We do utilize a lot of rotational grazing and have about 90 acres of permanent pasture and other acreage that's planted to hay and grazed, as well as providing corn and some other summer annuals as well. I'm responsible mostly for the conservation programs. The ones that were displayed on the slides were the CRP program and CREP. There are a couple of other disaster conservation programs as well. Those would be the ECP program, or the Emergency Conservation Program, and EFRP, which is Emergency Forest Restoration Program. Those both provide assistance to producers when there is a disaster condition that makes them eligible for doing some restoration work for that. Excited to be here to partake in the conversation.
Thank you, Johanna. Nice to hear from you. Lauren from the Farm Loan Programs. Lauren Feldman, would you like to take the stage for us and tell us about you?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Lauren Feldman. I am a farm loan specialist for FSA here in Pennsylvania. I have been in this position for almost 3 years, and it is my job to approve loans for the state and provide support and guidance to our state loan officers in the county offices. I also help train new loan officers as they start their career with FSA. Prior to my current position, I was a loan officer in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, for several years, where I was able to work with a variety of different operations like dairy, produce, poultry, and commodity crops. Prior to my time with FSA, I worked for Lancaster Dairy Herd Improvement Association, where I was a lab technician and tested raw and finished dairy products for a variety of different required state tests. I did really enjoy that job, but having a business degree, I found myself more interested in the financing and business related side of farming. I have a business degree from Delaware Valley University, where I was also involved in many of the agriculture programs and organizations. Currently, my husband and I live in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where we were able to buy a small hobby farm and start our own herd of natural colored sheep. And my husband also works for the agriculture industry and is very involved in Pennsylvania's poultry industry. Agriculture is a huge passion of mine, and I love making a difference in our local farms, so I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, Lauren. And then Becca Satoris is with us. She is our farm program chief, and I will allow her to take the stage.
Thanks, Melissa. My name is Becca Satoris. I am the farm program chief here in Pennsylvania. I've been with FSA for about 20 years now. I started as a trainee, and then I served as the county executive director up in Lycoming County and also in York County. And then I moved into the state office. I've held a couple of national positions as program specialists before coming back to the state office as the program chief. My husband and I currently live in York with our daughter. And I was born into agriculture. It has always been a passion of mine. I grew up on a small family farm in southeastern Virginia. I had the unique opportunity of being the peanut farmer's daughter. So I grew up in that, with that as my background. I worked for a couple of years for Virginia Cooperative Extension as an extension agent after I graduated college before moving up to Pennsylvania. I've always been excited to work for FSA to see the policy implemented on the farm, see the backside of that. And so I'm happy to be here today and filling in for Tristan, as Melissa had mentioned earlier.
Thanks, Becca. And I think, Sarah, are you ready for us to roll right into the Q&A session and come back on with our cameras to say hello?
We are, in fact, and you've done a beautiful job of coming in right on time. And it's so nice to hear what everybody's doing and their connections. So yes, please, anyone with a question, go ahead, put it in the Q&A. You may have had the same sort of puzzlement that I did, not seeing the open work. So look for the more button with 3 dots, and that will help guide your question in. I'll start us off just because I can. Many of our PASA members are small and medium-sized operators. So I'm wondering what programs, new trends, or emphasis you all are putting on maybe reaching that smaller operator. I know that's a wide open question, but I think it's scale is certainly a question.
I think scale is a great question, and probably every one of the panelists will be able to have input on this because, the big drive is that we can help, and FSA has programs for any sizes. Whether you're 0.01 acres in the middle of Philadelphia, or whether you're 500 acres in the middle of, Lancaster. So I'll just start off by saying that is super important, that there's no size restriction, and that we'd like that to become very known. So if I can, I will actually not pinpoint anyone, but I will just ramble through a few things. In particular, microloans are something that are on a smaller scale, a lot less paperwork, a lot less restrictive as far as, the large numbers coming in for dollars, and Lauren can get into that a little bit. As far as other programs, really, if they suit anything that we have, if it suits what your needs are, the size shouldn't be the restrictive part. It would be more of whether it suits what you need and whether you qualify and are eligible. So Lauren, do you want to take a few moments to talk about microloans? Obviously, we can spin off to Keith for some facility loans and storage ideas, but let's just start there and open it up for discussion with Lauren.
Yeah, our microloans are definitely a good option for small and medium farms. They provide funds for both operating and farm ownership up to $50,000. They can be used for things like purchasing equipment or making a capital improvement. They require less financial history and collateral than our traditional operating and farm ownership loans. And the loan amount and smaller payment tend to match well with the smaller operations that are, could be starting out. So our traditional loans don't necessarily exclude smaller farm operations, but with a smaller operation, we tend to run into a few more hurdles, such as amount of farm income compared to the loan amount, collateral available to secure the loan, sometimes enough financial history to reasonably project a viable business plan for that shows repayment for such a high loan amount. So starting out with a microloan is a great opportunity because it helps the farmer get started with our loan program and provides us with records and proof of managerial experience, which opens the door to the traditional operating and farm ownership loans. As far as some of the eligibility, they can meet the experience criteria. They eased the previous or the requirements from the traditional operating and farm ownership by allowing proof of participation with an ag-related organization, completing an apprenticeship while working with a mentor. So again, those requirements have been made a little bit easier to be met for some of those starting out farmers that tend to have those smaller operations. So hopefully that was helpful.
Hey, Keith, did you want to chat a moment about maybe some of the facility loan program ideas that are an option for folks of any size, and anything else that you have really on your thought process there?
Sure. On our, what I have seen on some of our smaller farms that we work with, a lot of the farmers have their own niche. So what we can do is we can offer, whether that is the niche is raising their own beef or growing their own vegetables. Well, we could provide coolers. We could provide refrigerated trucks to haul the produce, their produce that they grow. We can also help with some of the processing, especially like the slaughterhouses for butchering. We could do carcass hangers, all types of stuff we can do. As far as for fruits and vegetables, we can do washers, some bins, some sorters, some different things for that too. Our loans, we also have on the farm storage facility side, we also have microloans. Also, our microloans go up to $50,000. Okay. And for those loans, you can self-certify to your need that you have. And again, this is for your production only. So you can't buy anything that you don't grow and have and use our storage for it. Okay. We can also, so that's for niche farmers. If you are a grain commodity farmer, we can do grain storage bins, which we do a lot of those also. So, all right, Melissa, hopefully that answers your question there.
Hey, it did. It just is nice to throw out a couple things that might be not thought of on a regular basis that can suit any size. Did Becca, did you have any more to add, or Heidi? I don't want to scurry past it, but if either of you had anything to add, you can certainly come off mute. You can just shake your head too, because I can see you. I have the screen over there to view you. Awesome. So
I would add something.
Hey, sorry about that. Great.
No, that's okay. Even with a small operation, pretty much anyone might have some acreage that's maybe not quite as desirable or as productive. And some of the conservation programs might be applicable even on small acreage. You don't necessarily have to enroll 20, 30, 100 acres into CRP. The whole purpose of the program is to conserve the most vulnerable acreage and farm the best, most productive acreage. So there are, depending on the practice, some practical implications where a certain practice might not make sense to have at 1/10 of an acre, but other practices 1/10 of an acre or 2/10 of an acre might very well make a huge difference for conservation efforts on your farm.
Hey, Johanna, in that vein, would you be willing to just breeze over a few highlights about how rental rates happen and maybe some of the practices and how they get implemented, meaning how someone starts the process, a couple of the eligibility requirements that might get raked through, and some of the options they might have on that type of a program?
Sure.
Thank you.
So most of the conservation efforts within FSA in Pennsylvania is through what we refer to as CREP, or the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. There are, as was briefly mentioned on the PowerPoint slide, there are 3 different CREP agreements. Those CREP agreements allow FSA, through making arrangements with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to create some additional enhanced versions of the program locally here within Pennsylvania to address specific concerns within the Chesapeake Bay. As I'm sure everyone in agriculture is very aware of the issues and concerns with nutrient loading and stuff within the Chesapeake Bay. So the USDA and FSA with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has put some special priority on trying to implement some conservation practices within especially the Chesapeake Bay, but there's also the Ohio River Valley or Ohio River Basin, and more recently we added the Delaware River Basin CREP as well. For each of those, there are a variety of different practices. CRP and CREP is not a once and done, one size fits all type of situation. There are sort of 2 different directions you can go within the program. One is taking larger acreage that's out of agriculture production and planting it into a conserving use, typically either a grass, a warm season grass, or a cool season grass, depending on the site specific conditions and what type of goals you might have for the acreage. Some of those can involve some trees and shrubs added in as well. Then there are sort of what I call, those would be our highly erodible land conservation provisions. Then we also have a variety of different practices that are specifically more tailored towards conserving areas along streams and waterways. Those types of practices sometimes can be done and require what we call cropping history. So they sometimes do have to be on active cropped land, but some of them also can be on what we terminology in our department would be what's called marginal pasture land. It doesn't necessarily have to be pastured, but it doesn't necessarily have to have actually been planted to corn or soybeans or any kind of traditional crop either. And there are a variety of different practices that would be eligible in both of those settings. Some of that can be all of the process of determining eligibility for the acreage for the contract. The first step of that would be to start by contacting your local office and inquire about the program. You will have to establish your farm record. One of the first things that they will ask for is a copy of the deed, and hopefully have a conversation with you about what your conservation goals are, learn a little bit more about what your farming operation is, and then hopefully be able to answer some of your questions more specific about the practices that might be available. And specifically, once we know a little bit more about what you're trying to accomplish, what specific information we might need in addition from that basic information to proceed forward with an offer. The contracts are 10 to 15 years long. The process of determining how much you get paid is part of that sign up process. There's a whole calculation that goes into a place, but it basically starts with data that's collected off of NASS surveys. NASS would be the statistical branch of USDA. And that information is then used to sort of set basic rates that would be used as part of the rental rate process. The goal of the CRP program is to try to not compete with conventional agricultural production. USDA has a goal of both doing conservation, but also making sure that we have land that's actively in food production. So within our CREP agreements, some of the incentive rates that get added on can be quite substantial. So the rates for a CREP contract may be substantially more than you would be able to get for renting the land out, but that is all part of the process for determining the rental rate. And the whole process is based on bringing everything up as part of the process. So you know exactly what you're signing up to before it's all approved.
Thanks so much, Johanna. I appreciate that. And again, our expert there, that's a great resource if things are of interest to you. And of course, the website to look up more possibilities on that conservation aspect. So I have a few things in the chat.
Melissa, we have
Yes.
four questions in the Q&A.
That's what I meant, the Q&A. So if
There
I
we
can
go.
switch
Great.
gears to that a minute, the first one asks if there's any advice for transitioning to ag from just a regular 9-to-5 job. So I think that's pretty open-ended. I'm not sure if Dominic, if you had anything else you wanted to add so we could help steer the answer to that. Transitioning from a regular 9-to-5 job, one of the things in today's vein that we can giggle about is that you'll be much hotter if you work in air conditioning in your 9-to-5. It's so hot outside today. But when you're transitioning into ag, if you want to just type a couple pieces of information to help steer us on what we can answer. Obviously, we've mentioned that FSA is the starting point for you to kind of get established and be able to navigate, but also gather resources for technical advice and any type of aid of interest for your business plan or for some type of any type of, sorry, I was watching to see if you added anything, any type of data and education. So if you want to type a couple more pieces of information in there, we'll certainly come back to it. But FSA would be your starting point, reaching out to your local county office and just navigating some resources that are specific to how you're looking to transition would be super helpful, whether it be, loan acquisition, whether it be trying to get education or some type of resources to navigate. We can absolutely help you there. And you did. Replacing income, interested in food security and innovating, generating food while supporting and enhancing the environment. It's hard to walk away from a regular salary, right? Right. And that adjustment is a huge one. So I think just tapping into some of our resources and finding where your passions are, we could absolutely help you there. And my screen is jumping around, but if we can, Heidi, can I bring back to you? Would you like to talk about the Farm Service Agency ensuring racial equity and within their programs? I'll just stop at that and let you take the floor. That would be awesome. Heidi.
Yeah, absolutely. All our programs are for everyone. I just want to reiterate that, all farmers are important. And we want to make sure that everyone's getting access to the programs that we offer. It is a huge priority of the administration and a huge priority of mine to make sure that everyone has access to programs. In particular, designing programs, administering programs in a way that increases the access and participation for underserved farmers. I mean, that's evidenced in our work in the urban sphere as well. And understanding that many farmers in urban communities have not had access to many of our programs that we have at FSA, NRC, and all of our other sister agencies, NRCS and RMA and all those. So we're working on it. It's a process, and it's hard for us sitting here as white allies, but we're here and we are allies, and we are wanting to make sure that everyone has access to all of our programs.
I always just like to say thank you to the people that will ask those questions, that will hold the agency accountable, and that will, allow us to stay at the table when things get uncomfortable, to bring up those types of questions and want to know answers. And I know we have a lot of, resources on the internet that talk about some of our loan adjustments to increase equity and equality and urban ag initiatives and the new equity commission. I mentioned locally things like our state committee and Heidi and your local county committees to make sure that these things are being heard and that everyone is accountable and responsible for the things that should be happening. And it is sometimes uncomfortable. So thank you for holding everyone accountable and for staying at the table when things get uncomfortable and wanting your voice heard. So I always just say, you know, ears are here, and Heidi is someone that you can absolutely contact and have that heard. So thanks for asking that. There is a question in the Q&A about recommending small business plans that smaller farms can tailor to their operations. I'm not sure, Lauren, would you be able to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so we don't have sample business plans per se here at FSA. If we did have someone call and wanted to know maybe a resource where they could, you know, find some business plans, we would definitely steer them towards Extension. Actually, Extension has a lot of sample business plans based off very factual information online. For a large variety of different types of operations, produce, livestock, dairy. There's a lot on there. And we definitely utilize and rely on those as loan officers as well when we come across operations that maybe we haven't worked a lot with. We also have, you know, a lot of our loan officers have years of experience. You know, if you're sitting down working with one of those loan officers, they have some expertise that they can provide and some input that they can provide as you guys work together on that business plan. And you know, we've worked with other probably other similar operations that we can, you know, bring that knowledge and try to, you know, help you with your business plan. So while again, we don't necessarily have business plans that we provide, we do have some resources and tools that we can use when someone is looking for a sample business plan.
Thanks, Lauren. I was checking the Q&A and it says, is there anything for forest land? I would navigate that to Johanna. If you could just mention some of the back and forth that conservation does, maybe even NRCS, which is the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Just highlight that a moment so that we could mention that resource.
Sure. FSA really does not specifically, I mean, as our name implies, we are forest or farm based. So we mostly deal with the production agricultural side of the programs that Congress passes and that USDA implements. The only specific forest program that we currently have in our docket is the Emergency Forest Restoration Program, which can assist producers if you have a non-industrial private forest land that is damaged in an eligible disaster condition, such as a tornado, hurricane damage, stuff like that. That is a current program that FSA does administer on forest land. Our sister agency, NRCS, or Natural Resource Conservation Service, they do offer a number of programs that are specifically designed for implementation within forest areas. Primarily, you would probably want to ask about the EQIP program, but there are a number of different projects that they currently are promoting that are specifically related to specific bird habitat. So if you own private forest land, definitely you may still have a need to interact with the FSA office, but most likely it'll be more for the side of setting up your operation so that you would be eligible for the NRCS projects. And the same service center locator that was shared previously, you can use that to find the NRCS office as well.
Thanks, Johanna. The next question in the Q&A talks about it asks, what programs that include or exclude hemp farmers can we talk about? What is the main concern, if any, with the USDA reps servicing the industrial hemp community? How can you do more to support the 800 plus hemp farmers in PA? And as a business consultant, a client or farmer, was awarded a grant to drill a well. The USDA rep visited, saw hemp growing, and the permit posted next to the veggies. They reported it as marijuana, and it was unfortunately withdrew unofficially. Long story short, knowledge is power. How is PASA working to reduce these barriers caused by stigma and inform regulators that hemp is legal? Heidi, did you want to jump in there a few minutes about hemp? I know that there was a meeting that you had went to that kind of, gets into the hemp a little bit, and it's a little touchy for USDA. Did you just want to give a little recap there?
Actually, I'm going to pass that over to PASA. So.
Okay, that's perfect.
I was afraid of that. No, it's a great question, and it is a real issue. PASA held a listening session very much like this last year, talked about some of the needs for the industrial hemp community that are quite different. And I know that the Pennsylvania Farmers Union has a terrific policy platform that really gets into specific policy changes that are needed to clarify the differences and what those needs are. There is still, because hemp was only deregulated about 5 years ago, there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot of infrastructure that's not there. So we're going to continue to host these sessions. We'll have another on hemp soon, and work with FSA and USDA, and also at the state level. A lot of this activity is essentially regulated at the state level as well. So that's a great question. Melissa, we're getting towards the end of the hour, so I wanted to ask a general question and then sort of do a bit of a wrap up. And thank yous. I wanted to ask you guys if some of our listeners, farmers and others, really are interested in getting active at the county committee level. What does that look like? What does that involve? What are they signing up for?
I was watching Heidi to see if she wanted to encourage that a little bit. Do you want to take the floor, Heidi, and just mention how vital those voices are in the realm of the county committee?
Yes, absolutely. It was just announced this past Wednesday for county committee elections. So, if you are participating in any FSA programs, you and your farm, you are eligible to run for a county committee seat. Again, and I said it in the beginning of this session, we are a grassroots-based organization. It's at that county committee level. Having your voices represented there is really important. And I don't like seeing like the same people kind of rotating through. It's good to get new voices. It's nice to put another leaf in the table and make that table bigger, right? We're only 1% of the population here in the US, and it's great to have a diverse group of producers at the table. And that's evidenced even in our state committee as well. So I highly encourage all of you to take a look at that.
And again, you can start that at the local level by finding your service center, making sure that you are an eligible individual to participate. They can walk you through that. We have a lot of resources, even on the internet, that you can check out. But it's highly encouraged that participation, because it's unique in the federal government to have someone in the community or participating in this farming world, to have that back and forth locally like that. So that would be we're glad you mentioned that and want to encourage it, because we do too, and that's how all voices are heard.
That's a perfect wrap up. I want to, since we're close to the hour, I want to thank our panelists and Heidi. You guys are a breath of fresh air. It's so wonderful to get your perspectives and views on things, and I think we'll have more discussions in the future, I hope. On a variety of topics. There's so many, and we just scratched the surface. Would love to encourage folks, if you have the inclination and the time, to send us an evaluation. And again, thanks to Hannah, thanks to Heidi, thanks to our panelists, thanks to Melissa. And for folks who don't know, they've spent their day off with us today, which is above and beyond. So I thank you for that. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. It was wonderful to be here.
Thank you.